Good evening. Hello, Rajiv.
Hi, Priyanka.
How are you today?
Oh, wonderful. It's so great, so nice to be here on the OYF show today. Back again with yet another wonderful guest today.
Right. So let me do the formalities for a change. And I'd like to introduce Rajiv, my co-host. Together, we are working on how people can build their own future. We are starting with a series of conversations with people and about people, and as these people who possibly, like all of us, started their little journeys unknown, continue to be unforgettable. They're striding further ahead, doing some fantastic pieces of work, and we'd love to bring these stories and share that experience. Somewhere in these stories, I hope you would find your own story and help you design a future that you would like it to be. So go ahead and, yes, own your future. And that's what we talk about here. Rajiv, what is your take on the matter today?
Well, I would like to start with what I call as a power nugget. Well, the important power nugget for today is stems around something very interesting. The fact that vulnerability is actually a strength and not a weakness. And by the way, that's where even the top leaders, the most powerful of them, they show up as being humans. And that is what the real strength is all about. So go ahead, own your future, and be vulnerable. Show up with that strength. That's where it is. Over to you, Priyanka.
Vulnerabilities. Now that's something that I haven't really been able to reflect on, but I will keep that in as a note in my diary. With that, let's dive into the show. Let's introduce the show to our audience now.
Well, welcome again. And I have the honor of welcoming on our show a wonderful, wonderful guest today, Marty, as he says that he wants to be called. Welcome, Marty. Thanks a lot for joining us on the OYF show here. And a few words of introduction. I think few words is very little, but I think I'll take a shot at it. Marty is been an amazing, amazing person through his life. Whatever little I've read about him, I'm sure he'll tell us more about himself. He happens to be a person who has over 30 years of service with the military. He happens to have an amazingly high score in his IQ. He happens to be a person who is a CEO of United States Presidential Services. He has been the general manager of one of the most prestigious resorts. Guess what? Camp David. And then he's also been part and parcel of something which is the White House. So here we have a great person in person telling us a lot more about what he has been and what he's been up to. Welcome again, Marty. And why don't
Thank
you just
you.
start off by telling us when you started off unknown, where did it all begin? Tell us more about yourself, Marty.
Yeah, I mean, it really begins with, as you guys say, owning your own future. And my grandmother used to say things to me like, if you want to be president of the United States, you can. Feel free. This country will allow you to do that. So it's about owning your own future. And she loved watching me cooking. Maybe around the age of 4 or 5, my first dish, Rajiv, was pizza. So for a kid, that's a slice of bread with ketchup, and then you put the grated cheese on top. That's what a kid thinks pizza is, but it's not really what pizza is. But that was my first dish, my most famous dish. So I was owning my own future at 4 or 5 years old to become a chef. Yeah.
Interesting. So what got you into the military and what got you into becoming such an amazing human being that you are?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in God. And in this country, in America, we have a motto, a national slogan: in God we trust. So, whatever version of God I always say people believe in, or whatever name they use, because God is known by many names amongst the humans. So it's all good by me. But, it was kind of interesting. I learned an adage a long time ago, man plans and God laughs. So man has a lot of plans and so does woman, but God is always laughing. And I like to leave God. I don't refer to God as a male. I've let go of that long ago. I find it to be rude. So that's my own personal belief system, but I always have lived by that. The man and woman plans and God laughs. And so I actually hated education. And because I was unhappy with education from all private Christian schooling, so for all grade school and high school, I couldn't stand education. So that's kind of hilarious since I have 2 master's degrees now. And I was cooking, and I cooked, these are just natural things that happen. I cooked, Priyanka, to pay for my school. So I would work all summer long cooking and working in restaurants to build up enough money, was about $1,400 to pay for my Christian school. Now, I was going to school in the 70s and 80s. So that was a lot of money in those years, a lot of money. It still might be a lot of money to somebody today to say, hey, we need, the tuitions today is like thousands of dollars. It's not that. So when I graduated from high school, I really had no direction as to college, student loans, university. My inclination was very sad. I grew up in a very blue-collar family, Rajiv, where hard work, physical hard work, was the mantra of pride, and we just didn't have doctors and physicists and scientists and, attorneys in my family. It just didn't exist. So I figured, since I hate education, I'll probably go in the military. And what would I do in there? Well, I love, war. I was very much so in love with war. I had watched Roman films, killing, charioteers, World War II films, my whole childhood. And I loved cooking. And I figured, let me do that because I could be a cook in the military. And so I went and, you take all their tests, the ASVAB, the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. And I scored a 95 on that. And the highest score, I think at the time, was 104. And so they said, oh my gosh, we got a live wire here. This guy's got to be nuclear. Then they had me taking D-Labs, Defense Language Aptitude Batteries, learning fake languages to see how quickly you could grasp them. They wanted me to be a cryptologic technician and sit on the borders of countries, monitoring communications. And so different languages. I kept telling them, I don't want to do any of this. I want to be a cook. That's what I love doing. And it's one thing my father taught me is people who get to do their hobby for a living. We're talking about owning your future now. People who get to do a hobby and earn money from it, the hobby that you love. So if it's making cars out of wood, or you love carving seashells, if you can make a living out of that, my dad always told me those are the luckiest people in the world. So I kept telling the people at the Navy, that I wanted to be a cook. And the guy just couldn't believe it. He got so angry. He said, you are essentially not owning your future. You are throwing away your future. You are throwing away your life. And then he started cursing and pointing his finger. And if you want to, you dumb little, if you want to waste your life and become a cook, it is the second lowest score needed in the military. The only one lower than it is ship serviceman who does laundry and barbershop. That's how stupid this is. He told me, I'll send you away for two years to nuclear school. You won't even be in the Navy. You'll be learning nuclear operation, fission, fusion. You won't even be at sea. So don't worry about that. And plus, it's worth 2 years of a degree towards university. This is all free, all expense paid, nuclear school. Plus, today, I give you $30,000 in a bonus check. And I kept telling him, I don't want to do that. Finally, he told me, he said, good, if you're dumb little, I'll send you away for Christmas. You can go into boot camp for Christmas and New Year's and be away from your family. How do you like that, you dumb little? You like that? I was like, I don't care about Christmas and New Year's. I just want to do what I'm happy at. So owning your future is really one of the biggest lessons I learned is if you can turn your hobby into a money-making business, man, are you lucky. And I've been cooking my whole life since then. So from the age of 4, I'm 55 now, 51 years of cooking, and I'm probably never going to give it up. And that's how I got to the White House, to become a White House chef, because all this stuff is, again, it all goes back to people are saying, well, what's the story? What is he leading to? He was talking about one thing, and now he's over here. I'm lost. I'm bringing it back again. It's coming back to what I said, man and woman plans and God laughs. And so when I joined the Navy to be a slob, a cook on a ship, I never knew that, the Navy is the only service in America that runs the White House and the Vice President's house, where today we have Kamala Harris, the first Indian American Vice President in history. And that also, talk about owning your future, also runs the Camp David Resort. So I didn't know that, but at about 9 years, they said, boy, are you a really good chef? The word cook had gone out the window. And we want you to come and work for the presidency of the United States. So, see, I had no idea. I was just trying to own my future with doing what I love. So that's my story, and I'm sticking by it.
Oh, that's such a wonderful story. And I also know that you've cooked not just on surface, but below the surface of the sea as well.
Mm-hmm.
If I kind of sneaked in a little note from Rajiv. And I would also share with you that I know it's tough because I've been there, not sailing, but I've seen a few, and I know it gets complicated. And I've worked in close quarters with those who've done that job. And, I can only humbly submit that the amount of precision that you need to be able to get anything going in that tiny space is work of art. So you're not just talking about the culinary beauty that comes out of it, but sheer skill to get anything through in that much.
And plus it's going like this while you're cooking.
Yeah. And it's not like you have a whole host of equipment.
You're going up and you're going down 20 and 30 degrees up and down while you're cooking.
Yeah. And somehow the pot that has to boil only right then when you have to say something very major to the vessel. So yes.
Priyanka, I have had the pot of soup boiling.
Yeah.
And the soup is coming boiling out of it.
And then you're chasing with the pot so that the spoon falls back into it.
Yeah, then you're slipping on the floor and you watch people fly up into the air because the soup is all over the floor.
Yeah.
So we actually tie in with line. In the Army, they call it rope. But we tie the pots to the bulkhead.
Yes.
So they don't fly off the stove. And
you still need to produce as much food for about a few tens of men, very hungry tens of men, on time, delicious, in tight spaces.
Of course. And you may have to tell somebody like, hey, we don't have a lot of cake today. So the slices are only this big because 2 of the other cakes flew out of the oven. When we did that huge up angle, the doors popped down, the whole wet batter cake, a huge cake, flew out of the oven and blew all over. Then we spent an hour cleaning that up. So
the next one took longer to fix, but yes.
We don't have much cake today, so it's little slices.
Yeah, it just be and a lot of people would still eat that little slice with a lot of love and affection because frankly,
no, they don't eat it with love and affection. They gripe, moan, complain about it. They're angry. Yeah.
Then they look out of the porthole and then they say, yeah, okay, fine. At least you're getting the cake. Otherwise, it's seawater.
So
be happy with the cake. So that's that, interesting. And from there, from flying cake battered and spilled soup to the White House. So
Yeah,
we,
it really teaches you a lot of leadership and management lessons and how to deal with adversity and trouble. And when things would go wrong and happen, they always said, like, gosh, these military people, they just don't come apart. They
Yes.
don't flip out and start crying and break down, and they can handle so much stuff going wrong, so much pressure, living nightmares. I was doing a show many years later with my wife. God bless her. She is
That's good.
recuperating at the hospital. I took her over there yesterday, and I'm getting ready to go back. She had pancakes for breakfast this morning. So
Great show.
That's good.
But I was there all day and night yesterday.
Yeah.
But we were cooking live on a show on stage, and the power went down. The whole festival lost power on that side of the festival. And they wrote back to Procter & Gamble, a Fortune 25 company, and said that these guys just kept the show going. You didn't even know. They kept the whole show going, and there was not a hitch. And so we didn't flip out. We didn't wig out. My wife is also was in the Navy and is ex-Navy. So, yeah, and that's sometimes, the benefits of hiring people that can handle a lot of stress. And certainly the military is a lot of stress.
Yeah. But somebody's got to do the job. Somebody's got to boil the soup.
They do.
They do. So from boiling soup to coming to I know there's a little story that you've shared with us, and we'd like to share that with everybody. And this one's about Barack Obama and the family. So Rajiv, would you like to help us bring?
I'm Marty Mongiello from the United States Presidential Culinary Museum, and welcome to another episode of Inside the President's Cabinet. Today, we're super lucky to have Chef Mindy Morrow with us.
Welcome.
And we are going to be looking at, hey, Barry, pick up your stinky socks. So, quite a funny episode today about President Obama. And we're super lucky down here, Mindy, to feature the Chicago dog. And I know you have not ever enjoyed one, but you have seen them. They're that famous.
I have seen them, yes.
Yeah. Here in Charlotte, by the way, we have a Chicago dog restaurant. Who'd have thunk, right? Has to have, of course, the Vienna brand celery salt on it, or you are in a lot of trouble. And also the full-length pickle, the sport peppers. We use an emerald green relish. Don't ever do anything other than steam the Chicago dog. It has to be steamed. Mindy, if you barbecue it, you know what they call it?
It's not a Chicago dog.
It's a char dog.
A char dog.
So this is a classic mistake that many people make. Well, how about Michelle? Well, Michelle has a very famous dish, her uncreamed creamed spinach. Get it? Very healthy. Always making sure they're eating healthy. Down here we have the president's famous beer. He loves a Goose 312. This is a wheat ale. And you will notice his bet with David Cameron that the American soccer team is better than yours, and I guarantee we will win. And so they each put up a case of beer. No, you're wrong. I'm sure we're going to win, Barry. Okay? So I'll put up a case also. Crazy thing, Mindy, they tied in the championship, and so then they said, just to heck with it, Barry. We'll give each other a case of beer for free. So that's what they did. They made this bet at the G20 summit. This is a very famous bet. People love all these things and intricacies. Also, the only president ever to be featured on the front cover of The Amazing Spider-Man. We have an original copy here. And if you guys are looking at the price, I think I paid $25.25. Let me tell you, that comic is worth several $100s now. Okay, so super lucky to get that. Also, very, very fortunate to include this exhibit in our No Darkies Sit in this section of the bus, which the famous Carl White also has interviewed the author of that book. And Orlando Herrera talked all about this exhibit and featuring President Obama with the dedication of the Rosa Parks statue and why he wrote the book. And of course, the president sat in the original bus, Mindy. Well, what a photo that was to see a black president sitting in the black section on the original bus. Talk about a historic photo. And with that, I would just say the Barbie dolls. Mindy, did you play with Barbie?
Oh, of course. And my daughter loves her Barbie dolls now.
Well, we were lucky. Remember, I asked you for help to try and get the Rosa Parks Barbie doll. And we tried to get it for the museum exhibit, and they were all sold out. So for all you folks at home, we were finally able to get one of the Rosa Parks dolls. And this is from the famous ladies of the world, the Rosa Parks Barbie doll from Mattel. Now, I mentioned that this episode was Hey Barry, Pick Up Your Stinky Socks, and hilarious to find out that the kids, his daughters and Michelle, have often mentioned that Daddy leaves his stinky socks around the house, and so that he refuses to pick them up, and that also the president does not unplug toilets. This is one of Michelle's complaints in public that she has made, and it makes the audience laugh out loud. So the snorry and stinky that the kids often use to refer to Daddy is just hilarious to find out. And President Obama, like W, admitted that he abused drugs and alcohol as a teen. And he graduated from Punahou, a very elite high school in Hawaii, where I lived, in 1979. So I just always mention this during my speeches to people, that you can actually be troubled and have challenges and overcome them and put those things behind you. But trying to pretend that you're a perfect person and have never done anything in life really doesn't work for all of us. So this president did overcome many, many challenges. Hey, thanks friends so much for joining us again. I really appreciate it. You can subscribe right down there. We would love for you to subscribe, so click on subscribe. And looking forward to seeing you again real soon for another episode of Inside the President's Cabinet.
Well, I think stuff, Marty, and
some of that is really interesting.
Yeah, I just want to pick up on two interesting things there, and I just request you to continue from there on that. Sorry to sort of interrupt here, but interestingly, if you remember when I started the show, I spoke about vulnerability, and in one of the shows where I was sort of talking about a very well-respected leader and Barack Obama, I've done a show, maybe the second show that I did, where I brought his life, his experiences through the show. And very interestingly, if you really look at it, what you're talking about here is how a strong, powerful leader is not only just vulnerable, but also is building the capability to face all challenges like any other normal human being, right? Look at his choices. Look at what he loves to eat. Look at what he loves to drink. Look at the way he has the type of bets that he takes. All of us as friends do take on bets when we go in for matches. Who would imagine that the presidents actually would do that? So amazing. And I just want to hear from you more about this, what your experiences specifically around Barack Obama's cases have been. I think it'll be wonderful to hear from you.
Well, I think, making mistakes in life with drugs and admitting to it, drug use, was huge for me. I have 2 drug waivers on my federal record. The second one caused me to be thrown out of the Air Force. Again, we go back to man and woman plans and God laughs. I was actually dropped off by my dad to go to the Air Force. I was leaving for boot camp that day. And the gentleman asked me, okay, we'll just have some final paperwork. You'll be leaving on the airplane for Texas today, and you're going to join, your boot camp company. And just have to ask you again, have you done any more drugs? And so I said, oh, gosh, well, no, I haven't. I just have that one thing on my record for marijuana. And he said, yeah, well, we have that down. It's right here. Okay. Heavy drug use with marijuana. And that's illegal. And have you done it since? I was like, well, no, I haven't. But I was at a concert, and a joint was being passed down the line. And I took it from that person and gave it to that guy, and I just sniffed through my nostril, but I didn't toke. I just passed it. He's like, no, but you said that you sniffed it. You sniffed it? That's inhalation through the nostrils into the lung sac. You violated the federal law again of the United States. You're not going in the Air Force. You're a disgrace. You're a heavy drug user. You're probably a drug addict, and you call your dad to come pick you up because you're a disgrace in your family. And that's what I did. I called my dad on the phone crying, telling him, Dad, you need to come pick me up. I need to come back home. They're not going to take me. And I went home as a disgrace in my family, not accepted by the Air Force, a derelict. And today it's hilarious to see that even the FBI and the CIA are complaining to the Congress in the United States that they cannot get people to join and do these jobs in law enforcement anymore because they have got to change the requirements to has never done drugs, including marijuana or anything, nothing. And they've had to change it down to have not done it within the past 4 years, have not done it within the past 2 years, have not done it within 1 year. Now they've changed it. You have not done it within a certain couple of months. But in those days, in the early 1980s, marijuana was considered to be a heavy drug. And so then, of course, is when I went to join the Navy. In the Navy, you could get 2 drug waivers. So I had to wait and get a second drug waiver just for that the sniff, because that guy was vicious. He's like, you inhaled into your lung sac. You said you sniffed it. I don't care if you didn't toke. You said you sniffed it. You're a heavy drug user. You're probably a drug addict. You're not going in the Air Force. Again, God, has a plan. I didn't know that had I been in the Air Force, there are no Air Force people working in the White House as White House chefs. It's only the Navy. Remember, I told you that. It took 9 years for God's plan to work out. Okay? If you would, I often tell people, like, just let be and let God.
Yeah.
Let be. And that was an amazing lesson. Now look at President Obama is saying that he used drugs in high school, and he admitted to that, and he was still elected to be president of the United States. And I also mentioned President Bush in there. President Bush is a criminal. Not a lot of people know that he has a criminal record, W. Bush, that he was a drunk and a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that, he had a serious problem with drinking. A lot of people, they just don't know these things of what the truth is, that you can make tremendous mistakes in life and still become president of the United States, the most powerful country in the world. It is possible.
Interesting. And what I hear you say is making mistakes is one part of life, but overcoming those mistakes and converting them into possible opportunities to be able to follow what your dreams are, follow what you really want to stand for, is where the real character of the person comes out as. And that I believe is very powerful. And I think that's the value of character. Yeah, Priyanka, you're saying something.
So I wanted to pick on making mistakes. I want to say that it is a mistake only after it has been done, and that it got you to a place where you wish it hadn't. Now, the other way to look at it would be to say you did it and it led you down a path which today makes you who you are. So frankly, if you knew if it was a mistake, you wouldn't have done it. But had you not done that, you would not have gone down the path that you finally did. I'm not supporting no substance abuse, and it almost fears me because I have children, and it fears me to know how. And this is something I talk about in my circle extensively, saying it's closer than we think it is, and the righteousness and the straitjacketed correctness that we understand our world as is not as straitjacketed and is not as correct as we would wish it to be. So while we have kind of tied over those days where you could make extremely bad choices and go down a spiral, like the choice was in our hands to make that spiral down. We've tied it over. We have a responsibility to those who haven't, which is as close as home and within our home as our children. So if we can take those notes and teach them that whatever that we can teach them, and especially regarding substance abuse, it's probably an open conversation to have. That said, I think there is something more that we can learn from Marty and his experiences. Let's head into a second conversation that Marty had with Cleveland's. Yes, two-time president of America.
Kristen, so excited. Chef Marty Mongiello was here, a former White House chef. So exciting. And he brought his 9-year-old daughter, Raina. Welcome to the show. This is great.
Yeah.
Intergenerational. So, Marty, you're teaching Raina how to do all this, huh?
Yeah. She's avid, loves cooking and baking.
Oh, my gosh.
Yep.
Are you going to be a White House chef, too, one day? Maybe.
That's a tall order, huh?
So.
I mean, I'm thinking about being some type of Mona Lisa painting dude.
Oh, a Mona Lisa painting dude. That's maybe even better, Raina.
She loves painting. We're going to do the Mrs. Grover Cleveland's brown.
Yeah, so Frances Clara Cleveland, right, was the youngest first lady ever, 21 years old,
21, yeah.
but yet she was baking.
Yes, she
was baking up a storm, and she was making this brown bread, right?
Yeah, we start right here with a little bit of molasses, 1 cup, and 2.5 of buttermilk.
Okay. What is special about her recipe? Why are we digging this?
Well, look at what Raina's putting in right now. This is rye flour.
Ooh.
So, this is cornmeal she put in. A lot of people are wondering why people in Boston would be eating cornmeal, and you have the rye flour. Dump that
I'm
in.
Dump in. How much
Yeah,
rye
the whole
flour?
thing. That's 2.5 cups there, and the recipe is available. We got here a little bit of baking soda.
All right, how much baking
Of course,
soda
it's
are we
going to
throwing
start
in?
out
This is just a
clumpy.
heaping teaspoon.
Okay.
We'll whip him in.
And this is making sure it rises?
Yes, this is going to help with that. And 1 level teaspoon of salt there.
Okay, what is
yeah.
it? Sweet recipes always have a little salt. Why is that?
Yeah, sweet and, sour. People love it.
I like that combination.
Yeah, they love it. Yeah, it's like the salted caramel that people love. So,
now that is
all right,
good
now
stuff.
we're going to move this over here, Raina.
Okay.
Let's come on over yonder.
All right.
Because Raina was busy doing a well-buttered pan
that is
there.
well
So
buttered. Do we
this
like it
is.
layered like that? I always make it super thin.
I like it
No.
thick, yeah.
Oh.
Make sure it doesn't stick.
Okay.
And when the English actually strip out all the wheat out of the colonies and demand we want it all, send it all over, we see the colonies start using cornmeal. And so this is a very famous bread that is going to be steamed. And look at that. Let's just pour it right in there.
Delicious. So whenever we're making recipes from the late 1800s, it always seems to have cornmeal.
Yes, and this one is a crazy one in my book. The way she wrote it up is a bowl of flour and a bowl of rye and a bowl of...
So no exact measurements.
Yeah, it's like, what's a bowl?
What's a bowl? How big is the bowl that she's
so
using?
I had to play with it and really try to figure it out. And this is kind of, like I said, it's a steamed bread, Cheryl.
Okay, what makes it steamed? I've never even heard of
Look,
that.
we're going to do water.
Oh, in the pan.
And I grew up as a child eating this B&M brown bread in a can. And so you get the bread out of the can.
Bread in a can?
Yes.
Bread in a can?
What do you think? That sounds crazy. That's crazy talk, Mark.
This is super crazy too. 325 degrees, 2 hours and 20 minutes steaming.
Ooh. 2 hours and 20 minutes?
Yes, at 325.
This is gonna cook like all morning.
Yes, and then we take it out of the steam and we bake it for 20 minutes.
Okay.
And we end up with this wonderful brown bread here.
Okay.
And we love to slather it with butter.
Can we eat this with our fingers?
We can, yeah.
Butter is basically the
it's
frosting.
finger licking good.
Can I take this one?
Yes, you can. And,
Okay.
And I like the Randy. You're going to get one. I like mine just slathered with butter.
Slathered with butter. This recipe has lots of butter.
Butter.
I
It's good.
have grown up eating this my whole life. Very famous Boston brown bread.
It's a little bit of like raisin bread.
Yes, and
Super
sometimes
moist. A little squishy, Marty, but I
we
love
make
that.
we make it with raisins sometimes.
Okay. Did
So-
you like it, Raina?
She didn't grow up eating it her whole life.
Not her favorite, but still pretty good, right?
Yeah.
I think
very good.
the rye flour really catches people, and the molasses and the cornmeal.
Yeah, it's an interesting complexity of flavors.
No wheat.
Did you bring this recipe to the White House?
This was already there from Francis. Francis Folsom Cleveland.
So they've been making it ever since the late 1800s with Francis?
Yes. And now our town is named after Grover, her husband, Grover Cleveland. So we thought,
Cleveland, we love that guy because he was president twice.
Yes,
but not consecutively.
Only person in history.
Yeah, 22nd.
And Cheryl, another good Jeopardy question. He won the popular vote 3 times in a row.
Oh, wow.
Only person ever to do that.
See, making history. Both of those Cleveland's making history.
Thank you for having us.
This is good stuff. We love it. Thank you. If people want to find out more about this recipe, where do they need to go?
They can go to our site, InsideThePresident'sCabinet.com. The recipe's right there if they want.
Perfect. So good. I love this.
Thank you. I'm going to
bite into the 19th century.
Make sure yours doesn't stick to the plate like mine.
We're going to make sure that mine doesn't stick, Renya. All right.
I mean, I just...
Good job. When we come back, we are heading to the social center. Callie is there.
Nice.
What a silly daughter, right?
Oh, you don't say that.
I think she's a cute daughter, number one. And
No.
the best part about it is she's honest. She's so wonderful. And I'm sure we're going to have her on our show very soon again. And that's something that Marty has promised me. And more important than that, Marty, very interesting. Here you have an amazing recipe which runs from the 1800s, right? Which has been sort of been carried on and on into probably the White House, and the way sort of we describe it and the way you sort of have recreated it, if I was to really look at it that way. Something that comes to my mind when I first saw this video, and also as I was watching it again with you today, is that in your own journey in the White House, in your own experiences at Camp David, what do you think has been the role of the first ladies behind the scenes, not just in terms of recipes, but also into making the presidents who they are, making themselves who they are? Would love to hear more about that.
Absolutely. This first lady is a great example. And I often tell people for my keynote speeches, I am a busy keynote speaker. They have me scheduled up all the way through the end of this year. I'm going to fly to Washington, D.C. with my wife and Raina, our daughter, the 3 chefs, at least twice, maybe 3 times more this year to give speeches. I'm very well paid, I might say, to share with people that this is more about me. It's more than me and my experience in the White House, which was just a couple of years. I was a housekeeper, I was a valet, I was a butler, I was the chef, would put the chef's coat on at night. I also worked in the underground nuclear bunker of Orange 1. And, you have a lot of responsibilities as a military person. You're not just the White House chef who gets to hang up their coat and say goodbye to the First Lady at 7 o'clock at night, dinner's over and I'm leaving. You may be up until 2, 3 in the morning as a bartender. Somebody's got to be trusted with a top secret clearance to make drinks and to bring, a drink to the president and say, here you are, it's okay to drink this, because they're very concerned, So it was a huge job, and you're there with the first ladies all the time. You're listening to everything that they're saying in the living room, because, as a valet in their house, you're in their bedroom, their bathroom, their living room, the dining room, you're in the kitchen, you're doing everything. You're not just the White House chef, okay? Many times I wish that I was just a White House chef because I could hang my white coat up and walk out at 7 o'clock at night and come back in the morning. But, you have a lot of responsibilities. And in listening to the first ladies all day long is where you can pick up and learn a lot of stuff, too. Let me tell you how they deal with things. They're not some stupid little woman. They're generally very, very intelligent and smart. Laura Bush was a librarian. This particular first lady, Mrs. Cleveland, she graduated from Wells College. Her superintendent of the college refused to allow her to attend the inauguration of the president, Grover Cleveland, and said, absolutely not. And I don't care who the letter's from. They said, well, the letter's from the president asking you. She said, no. She's here to continue her studies, and that's more important. than going down to Washington, D.C. So she did come down after this particular first lady. She stayed in the White House. And if you read her diary, like I have, it says, I can't believe it that I'm actually in this house, or is it a dream? I'm sleeping upstairs on the second floor. They had a couple of dinners with Grover's, all his favorite women, his sister, who was the first lady, the lesbian first lady, his sister Rose, probably the most famous lesbian first lady in the history of the United States. His soon-to-be wife was at the dinner, of course, and her mother, Emma, went everywhere that the daughter went. You're not going down to Washington, D.C. to see some man who's almost, 20 years older than you, at 21 years old, some filthy old man. Okay, I'm coming with you as a chaperone. So he sat there at the dinner, but then at the end of the dinner, they said that he took her away and showed her all around the White House for hours. And they had a private conversation in the East Room, which is where they pretty much believe, looking out of the south windows, that is where he told her his intentions. And of course, Mom was a bit disappointed. This particular President Grover, he was a long family friend, okay? They called him Uncle Cleve, President Grover Cleveland. He was a long-term family friend. He actually knew his wife since she was in diapers. His technical first trivia gift in history ever was a baby carriage. When she was a child, he gave to her as a toy. So that's another fun trivia question. Imagine being 21 years old in the White House as the First Lady of the United States, and your husband's in his 40s. Okay, it's quite a job, I would say. Wouldn't you think, Priyanka, for a First Lady in the White House to be 21 years old?
I think it'd be overwhelming with too many people around us telling you what to do.
Yeah, especially some old man husband who's
rather powerful, to say the least.
And in those days, we're talking about the 1800s. It was even worse than it is today with all the, all the way men act and stuff towards women. Things are much better today. But this particular First Lady did a lot of good things for the world. One thing she noticed right away, she told Grove, is what she called him, Uncle Cleve. Well, women can't come in here like these other First Ladies. I'm a bit younger. And maybe these older First Ladies that have lived in this house, they had, women come in here during the week to sit with them for the soirees and the luncheons and to have tea. Women are working today, Grover. Do you not realize that? So I'm going to open up on Saturdays to allow women to come in and see me. And we'll have like several dozen that would probably like to come in and have lunch and see me. And that's a lot of what they did in those days. They had socials where people could come in from society and around Washington, D.C. So that was one of the first things that she did to make changes in the White House, and is pretty amazing to see. Not everybody liked it, of course. And, high society and older people, turned their, this young snot-nosed punk child girl, who doesn't even know anything about the world. They had a lot of negative things to say about her, but she actually won over all the United States, I would say, as much as Dolly Madison did. Most homes that you would go into in America would often have a picture of the First Lady, Mrs. Cleveland, in the kitchen, up in the kitchen. So, or somewhere in the house, but a lot of times in the kitchen. So, but there wasn't a picture of the president. And she was a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous young lady. So quite interesting to see some of the changes that she made.
So I hear what you say. It's what I also hear is the similarities, and such conversations from across the globe help us understand how similar we are. The fact that what is a preconceived notion about gender, about who does what, about it's assumed that it would have been all one way straight up for you and possibly Barack Obama as well, and which from your conversation we do gather that maybe it was not all one way. About the courage to be able to stand up and ask yourself, what I want to be. So last question, Marty, or Martin, let me, for the sake of formality, at least share the correct name. And what I want to ask you is, last questions. When did you realize that chef is what you need to be? And how delicious has that journey been so far?
I think it was very early. My family used to come into the kitchen to see what little Martin was doing. And it was kind of crazy. At a very, very young age of about 4 or 5, I was setting out in the kitchen. I would put a towel down for a placemat, the plate. They would ask me, like, what's all the silverware for, little Martin? I had, like 3 forks and several spoons. Often different glasses. I would have 3 glasses out, one with water, one with apple juice, and one with grape juice. I was obviously mimicking what I was seeing on TV with the white wine and the red wine. Of course, I wasn't allowed to have wine. So I would have 1 glass with water, 1 with apple juice, and 1 with grape juice. And, I would explain to my grandparents, uncles, and aunts, well, this particular fork is going to be used for the first course, my salad I'm having tonight. And then the middle fork will be for the main course. And then the other fork, the inside one, closest to the plate, is going to be for the dessert. And so then they would evidently leave and go get like another person. And another person would come in. Oh, hi, little Martin. What are you doing? So it was pretty obvious at a very early age that something about the glistening silverware, all the pieces, cooking and serving, that I was really excited about that.
So my compliments to you for standing up to the gentleman in the Navy to tell him that no, it's not the nuclear and it's not the other fancy things it is chef. And we're glad. So let's take a moment to say thanks to him as well for being slightly less stubborn than you are, because
Absolutely.
Well, he did yield, and you did get to be where you are, and you did get
and according to him, I threw my life away.
Yeah, so you threw your life away to come to own your future and be an inspiration to so many people. So appreciate you having made those choices.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's exactly where I was coming to, Priyanka. So rightly said that. When Marty started off, he spoke about the fact that his choices began with he owning his own future. And I'm so happy to have somebody like Marty here today. Not because he's Marty and he's been so kind to sort of spend time with us while his wife is recuperating, for which I must thank him. And I'm so grateful for his commitment to be with us today. And I'm really grateful for that. Also, importantly, that he really symbolizes what we stand for, own your future. He made his choices, he stood committed to that, and every step of his life is actually an inspiration and a lesson. And I really am so sure that I think there is so much more that people can learn from him, and we really love to deepen our association, deepen our relationship, and I see an opportunity to really engage more and really through this journey. I see, Marty, you being able to contribute to a lot of people, because I think everybody who has to own their future, when they hear it from people who've done it. See, all of us at this point in time getting into this conversation, we may appear whoever we are, but at the back of it, there is a lot of struggle, a lot of choices each one of us have made. And bringing out these stories, bringing them to life and inspiring others is something which we were so deeply committed to it. So thank you for that. The last 2 words from you, Marty. What would be your 2 words of inspiration for people who want to own their future? And I would like to really hear it from you.
Yeah, I would just say come to understand much earlier the meaning of the word fail, because I didn't hear it until about I was 53. And you should look forward to failing in life. Failure is excellent. It's a great way to learn. And if you really unlock fail, F-A-I-L in the English, it's fortunate, a chance for you to actually pick up on something. So fortunate attempt in learning, F-A-I-L. And once you understand fortunate attempt in learning, then you start to realize that actually you always win. So when you fail in business, or when you fail in school, or when you fail with your children, or when you fail in your relationship, at your temple, at your church, at your synagogue, at your mosque, at wherever you worship, or even when you fail with your parents' relationship and you realize that you are a failure, which I have been a failure many times. I'm very happy and excited to admit to people that I am a failure. I have been a failure. And I have also achieved the wonderful English word of loser. But it takes a lot to be able to admit that to people
Yes.
worldwide.
And with so much, yes.
But once
And
you
with that
understand what it means to fail, fortunate attempt in learning, and it was an Indian gentleman who taught me this. He said, "Oh, well, we know the meaning for failure, FAIL, fortunate attempt in learning." I was like, "What? What did you just say? Let me write that down. Say that again. Say that again. I had to get a pen. Say that again." He was this wonderful guy that lives here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I had to write that down. Fortunate attempt in learning. It was like, oh my gosh, I spent 53 years amongst the humans and I never knew this. Everything I always did was supercharged, action-packed, crush, kill, and dominate in the military, the American military, the most powerful battle force on earth. We will exterminate everything on the battlefield in front of us. And when you grow up like that, that's what you expect. I went to college. I've got 2 master's degrees. I had a 9 points, blah, 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 blah. Everything you do is supercharged with win, 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 win. It's a win, 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 win. And you get this whole attitude about you that when you do fail, like you become a bankrupt. I'm a bankrupt. You get divorced. I was divorced. Okay. You become homeless. I was homeless. I lived in a cargo van and slept in a closet. Okay. You start to really think about committing suicide. And then when I told my dad that I'm thinking about doing this, okay, he said, "No, don't do that. You need to go into counseling and see a therapist." Okay. And I did. And, things got better. But you're just not prepared because nobody ever told you about failing. All they ever told you about was be positive all the time in your life. Be positive. It's like you can't actually be positive all the time in your life. It's stupid. Okay. No battery in any car that we get into today. I don't care if you drive a Tesla. I don't care what kind of a car it is. Every battery on earth is positive charged and negative charged. The entire universe of neutrons, nucleus, proton, the whole universe is built on positive and negative charge with inequality. Okay, the whole universe, everything in the universe is both positive and negative. You can't win all the time. You can't be positive all the time. That's why I encourage people to yell, scream, get angry, unleash your rage. Okay. Don't harm anybody physically. Now you watch what you do with your hands, but you have to let this out and you have to know it's okay to be negative sometimes and it's good to fail. And I was just never taught those things. So when I found out about them at 53 years old, it's only been 2 years now that I've known about this. Okay. So my goal is to share this, and I've shared it with my daughter who's 10, with our daughter, and told her all about failure, and you want to fail and you want to look forward to failing, and it's good. And so I think, I've transferred that, and I've got her about 43 years ahead of where I was. So those are my parting things. As we watch the presidents fail, like President Obama, who said he used drugs, and President Bush, who had a DUI and was a criminal and a drunk, and we watch them fail, then it's okay to pick it up, learn from your failure, fortunate attempt in learning, and do better. And that needs to be really shared with a lot of people out there.
I think that's so powerful. And I just want to close this show with something that I so often say. Success without failure is actually fluke.
Yeah, we started.
And that's actually the reality. Because if you think about it, you've never seen a kid to start walking without falling. And that's nature's law. And
That's
the
right.
people who try to fight against that nature's law are the people who struggle. So if you for a minute think of what you said, and so true it is, and such a powerful message you're talking about. And I just want to sum up this wonderful conversation we've had yet again with saying success without failure is actually a fluke. So don't rest on flukes. Go ahead and fail. Go ahead and fall down. You will come back stronger. I think that's the power of what you can get out of if you choose to own your future. So that's so
right.
wonderful. Thank you very much, Marty. It's been
Thank you,
a
Marty.
pleasure to
It's
talk
been
to you.
such a pleasure. It's been a
Thank you,
pleasure trying to
guys.
find falling soup and surfing in it. Thank you
And
so
look
much.
forward
You be
look
good.
forward to sort of being in touch.
God bless.
Thank you, Marty.
Take care now.